So if you're degree student, based on your degree type, it will automatically show. So don't worry. If you have any queries, you can reach out to our team. Uh, don't worry. It'll start. Don't no issues. Team will be posting the degree college code. Please wait for a minute. Please wait for a minute.
All right. Hi guys. Good evening. Hopefully you're able to see me, hear me, and also see the screen properly. If you can, just send a hi, good evening, something in the chat, and let's begin. Okay, perfect. So, two quick things again. Number one, hopefully some of your doubts regarding the access have now been resolved. Like I said, we'll get somebody from the team to help you out. So hopefully now everybody will be able to log in to TapTap and give the AppShe test that we just discussed, right? Second thing is regarding the assignment update. Again, don't worry about it just yet. The team is still working on that. So as soon as we have an update on that, I will let you know. So as of now, you don't have to work on the assignment on the LMS. We're working on that. So whenever that gets updated, I will let you know. Because I think the current assignment that is updated has questions from all topics, like most of you were mentioning. So I double check that as well. So we'll be updating that assignment to include only HTML, or you will then give or solve the assignment after the topics are done, right? So as of now, the assignment has topics till React. So then ideally after we complete React, that is when you have to complete the assignment. So for now, don't worry about the assignment. We will upload just HTML and then we'll let you know. So yes, don't worry about that for now, right? So for now, just focus on giving the test which was just mentioned, which is your aptitude test, etc. Right? And also make sure you have your resume created and downloaded from TapTap. So again, once you fill in all the profile details, you can download a resume from there. So please make sure you do that as soon as possible, because you will need that resume for all purposes, right? So for all applications, for all job updates, that is the most important document. So yes, again, like I'm saying, don't worry about the assignments or the assessments just yet. I will give you an update on that when that is ready, right? So for now, just focus on again getting the resume done and also practicing whatever we are discussing in the session, right? That brings us to the session itself. So we've been talking about CSS for the past couple of sessions. Again, here is the repository where all the code is. I've added everything that we've done so far. So all of that code, the PPTs, recording links, everything is updated in this repository. You can go ahead and take a look at this. I think session 7 recording is missing. I'll add that also. But other than that, everything else is already over here, right? So I think it is just tap.blackbox, that link. Yeah, but again, I'll ask the team to send it to you as well. But yes, so this is where all the content from the sessions is, right? Now, coming to what we've been talking about so far and what we will discuss in this one. So far, we've been talking about CSS. So we have covered HTML completely. We've also covered most of CSS. There is one part left, which is responsive design. And that is what we want to discuss today, right? So remember, I showed you that cheat sheet for Flexbox as well as Grid. So I will be uploading that also on the GitHub repository. So you can definitely go through that as well. But in addition to that, right, what we'll also discuss today is responsiveness. So I'll talk about how we can basically modify the code, so that it becomes standard for both laptop and tablet and mobile. So how can we write one piece of code which looks the same across all devices? So that is something that we'll discuss in the session today. And then we'll talk about one framework, not exactly a framework, but a library, which is called Bootstrap. Let me know if you have heard of this term before, Bootstrap. But basically, this is a place where we can get ready-made HTML and CSS code, for a lot of our purposes. So we'll cover these two things today. But first, let's quickly recap, what we have already discussed so far. So in the previous session, we've been talking about the box model. This is very important. Again, we'll use this almost every day now. because we need this to space things around on the screen, right? So that is the first thing. Here we have four components of the box model. We have the content, then the padding, border, and margin. So content is the actual content itself, like the text, image, audio, video, table form, whatever HTML tag we are adding, that is the content. Then there is the border. So border is the boundary of the content. So the way the box model works basically is that CSS treats every element as a box. Right? CSS treats every HTML element as a box. So effectively, what the box model is doing is it is giving a boundary to every element. And there are three things associated with the boundary. One of them is the boundary itself. We call it the border. So for the border, we can set the width, we can set the style, we can set the color, we can set it for all four borders if we want. Then there is the padding. Padding is the space between the content and the border, right? So if you have this border, then the actual content, it could be text, image, form, table, whatever it is. The space between the border and the content is called padding. So basically it is the space inside the element, right? Inside the element. So if you want a quick example for this or a quick analogy for this, imagine that your HTML element is your house, right? The house that you live in, that is your HTML element. The space inside the house, how things are arranged, that is padding, right? For example, let's say you have a table in the middle of the room, a dining table. So the space surrounding the table, let's say from the table to the kitchen counter or from the table to the fridge, that is the margin, right? So that is how it is. The space between two different elements is the margin, and the space within the element, that is the padding, right? So that's the idea. So again, if you take the example of a house, then the space between your house and the main road, or the house and the footpath, the boundary of your house, that would be the margin. So the space between the element and the other element outside the element is margin, and the space within the element is padding. So these are the four properties of the box model. Again, content, padding, border, and margin. We have seen how to style them. You can spend some time on W3 schools as well as on MDN if you want to read more about these. Again, like I said, we'll be using these every single day. So anyway, they'll be repeated multiple times. Then the next bit that we discussed is that we talked about positioning, right? So with positioning, we talked that, okay, static position is the default position of the content. This is where it is supposed to be as per our HTML code. Then relative positioning is where we move the content with respect to its current position. So basically from where it was supposed to be. Then absolute positioning is where we move it from the top of the page, right? So stop basically with respect to the page boundary. And then sticky and fixed are values which we don't, which will basically make the element fix on the page. So fixed would mean it stays there. Sticky would mean it even scrolls along with the page. So this is what we have discussed again already. Then we talked about the flex box and the grid. So when it comes to the flex box, again, the idea is that we use it to arrange content horizontally on the screen, right? So that is the flex box. Then the next option that we've discussed is grid. So whenever we are forming the layout of the page, the outer setup of the page, how things will be arranged, that is the grid, right? So this is everything that we have already discussed, and we'll keep using these things. We'll keep using box model, flex box, grid, all of these things in the next couple of sessions also. So whenever we create any change, whenever we basically style anything, we will uh, you know, basically need all of these things. Now that brings us to the next topic, which is our focus for today, which is responsive design, right? So as you can see here, this is what responsive design basically looks like. It means writing one piece of code which responds to the screen, right? So in a way, what I am trying to say is writing one piece of code which looks good across all devices, or which can adjust based on which device it is being opened on, right? So if you open it on the laptop, then it would look something like this, where we have four cards in one row. On the phone, it could basically be one single card in a row. And maybe on a tablet, we have two cards in a row. So depending on the device size, we want our code, our content to respond and adjust accordingly. Right? This is called responsive design. Now, to do this in CSS, we have a special set of CSS selectors, which are called media queries. Again, I'm not sure if you have worked with them before, but let me show you how to use them. And then we'll make one output based on this. So that will basically put everything together that we have seen so far, and we'll be able to create that. So let's go ahead and take a look at the media queries part now. So again, I will just share my screen with VS Code open. Here we go. So again, I've set up a blank HTML file. We have a blank CSS file as well. So that's the setup. Let me quickly link the file using our link tag. Now, what I'm going to do is I will not write the media queries myself because it's a long piece of code. So better what we can do is we can just go to W3 schools and we can copy the media queries because there are a lot of media queries, right? So you can see this is the code that we need. Again, I will put this link in the chat if you want. So this is where we will get the media queries code, right? So it's called the same. It's called the same, right? Media queries. So what we are looking at is device breakpoints. It's a little scroll on the page and you reach here, typical device breakpoints. You will see another section to detect the orientation also. So if you want to style your page differently when the website, when the phone is turned, for a landscape setup, you can do that as well. So that is another option. But again, that's not the focus. The focus are these media queries. So this breakpoint basically means at what point do we know that it's a mobile phone? At what point do we say it's a tablet? At what point do we say it's a laptop? Stuff like that, right? And again, these are standard sizes that are recommended sizes. Some devices follow this, other devices don't. So chances are that you can, if it's a very expensive phone that has a very high screen resolution, then you might probably see the tablet version on that phone. It can happen, right? So it depends on the browser on the phone. It depends on the phone screen resolution. There are a lot of factors, but generally put together, these are the typical breakpoints. So these are not exactly applicable for 100% of the devices, but for 95% of the devices, they will work, right? So what we need to do is we need to copy this whole thing and we just paste it over here in the CSS file. So I'll just get rid of these dots and then I'll show you the code. I'll tell you what this entire code is about. So now let's take a look at the code that we have just copied, right? So the first thing that we have to understand with respect to this code is that this code is just giving us different um, resolutions for different devices. So effectively, what this is trying to do is we can actually style the same content to look different on different devices, right? So the first thing, if you see here, is for extra small devices. So these are typically smaller phones, right? 3.5 inches, 4-inch devices. We don't use these anymore. Most of the phones are now 5.5, 6 inches. But if you go, the older phones, smaller ones, those have this resolution. So either that, or of course, this works with pixels. So wherever we have phones sizes whose size is 600 pixels or less. So those devices fall under this category. So what that means is whatever style we write here is only applicable to these specific devices. Then the next one is small devices. So these are your fancier phones, right? So 5.5 inch, 6-inch phones, all of those phones with bigger screens, which is 600 to 768. So between 600 pixels to 768 pixels, these are your small devices. Then we have medium devices. These are typically tablet size. Then we have laptops and then we have desktops. So these huge monitors and all, they have 1200 pixels and above, right? So these are the standard breakpoints. These are the standard, basically sizes that we work with. Now, how this works is very simple. Let me give you a very simple example. Let's just put a paragraph and I will just add some dummy content, right? So I'm just adding some lorem ipsum content to the paragraph. Let me go ahead and start this with live server. There we go. And let me get the link to this. Okay, and paste it. Done. So here is our output. Now this is on a typical resolution. So this will be a tablet resolution. Why? Because my screen is half. Right? I've reduced the browser to half of my laptop screen. So the browser is taking up half the space, which will typically be a laptop, which will typically be a tablet resolution. Right? Now what Google Chrome does is it gives us access to all of these resolutions, and we can test our website like it would look on all these devices as well. So again, for this, what we have to do is go to developer tools. So right click and inspect. And then over here on the upper hand side, you can see there is something called toggle device toolbar, right? So as soon as you click on this, you will notice this another menu opens up, and we have so many options to choose from. So we have iPhones, we have Pixel, we have Samsung, we have iPad, we have all of these devices that we can test our website on. Right now, I have it open to laptop. In case you don't see laptop, what you need to do is just make it full screen. That's the default laptop setup, right? But typically, if I switch this to iPad, for instance, you will see this also shows us the resolution 820 pixels. Then if you go for iPhone, it shows us 400 pixels. And if I go for something like a fancier one, let's say S20 Ultra, this is the resolution. You can also add a custom device. So go to edit, and you can add a custom device if you want, right? So you can add custom device, and you can set your width and height as well. And there are a lot of other devices to choose from as well. So again, you can set this up the way you want. But basically what you have to do is just right click, go to inspect, right? And then on the right hand side, on the top right, you will see this button. It's called toggle device toolbar. So by default, it will be like this. Once you click on this button, this additional menu shows up, and you can then choose whichever device you want to test it on. Now, let us say that we're testing it on the iPhone SE. All of us know that iPhone SE is the smallest iPhone that Apple makes, right? So you can see the resolution is only 375 pixels width. So what we can do is, let us style this part, right? So because this is the one that will apply to SE, it will fall under less than 600 pixels, right? So let us say that we apply the paragraph color and we change it to red, for example, right? So as soon as I save this, let's see if it responds. Okay, let us double check. Our CSS is linked. Okay, let me try putting this in the next category as well. And you can see now this works. So again, I think the resolution is a little off there, but you can see when I put it in the small devices category, I think it's because of 667. That's the size that we are looking at, right? Not 375, but 667. So as you can see on that size, it is 600 and up. It is between 600 and 768. So the red color shows up, right? However, if I go back to our standard laptop size, then this will still carry forward. So the lowest setting that you make will carry forward to all the bigger devices unless you change it. So now what we can do is for the same paragraph on the laptop, right, which is, I think my laptop will fit in this one. But again, what we can do is for the laptop size, let us change the color to blue, for example. Now, if I change this to laptop, you can see now it is blue, right? If I just zoom in, you can see the same paragraph that we have added in HTML, right? There's only one paragraph that we have added. The same paragraph now looks blue on the laptop. And if I change it to the phone size, it looks red, like you can see, right? This is what we call responsive behavior or responsive design. We are writing the code in such a way that depending on the device that we are opening it on, right, the basically, right, the size or the styles of the content will change. So that's the idea. And that is why it is called responsive design, right? So again, this is how it works. So what we have to do is just set it to responsive. That's the default behavior. And then we can increase or decrease the size as and when we want. And that's practically, it's going to show us all the styles as you can see. So what I will do now is I'll quickly add it to all different sizes so we can see the difference. Let's make it green in one, right? So we have red, green, blue, and let's also make it let's give it one more color probably. So over here, let's try to make this as brown, for example. So we should be able to see very distinct colors now. So let me close off this developer tools bit. And now let me make this full screen. So you can see this is brown right now, right? And as and when I start reducing the size of the browser, you can see the difference. So from brown, it goes to blue, right? Then from blue, it goes to green. From green, it goes to red. And then from red, it goes back to black. This is the small size which we haven't styled. So if I change this to yellow, then you will see everything, right? So again, this is the smallest possible size. So the style is yellow. Then at the small device size, it turns red. As you can see, this is red. Then at the medium devices breakpoint, it turns green. So if I just expand this, you can see this is green. Then at 992, it turns blue. So this is laptop size, right? And then beyond that, it turns brown, which is our monitor size or display size, like for bigger monitors. You can also see this in the inspector if you want to exactly see the breakpoints, right? What you can do is you can again try the same thing out. So you can see at 1200, it will change. So if you notice here, it is 1201, right? Right now it is 1200. As soon as I go under 1200 by 1199, it turns blue. So at 1200, you can see the code. The code says 1200 and above. So at 1200, it changes to brown. Under this, it is blue, which is this category up till 992. So if I go down to 992, and you will notice again, so at 992, it is still blue. At 991, it will change to green, right? So basically, this is what the browser, or this is how the browser is figuring out which device you're opening this on. And accordingly, the browser is going to decide how big or small the content should be, right? So that's how this works. Perfect. Now, let me just put this to the side again. So there we go. Now let us see how we can actually get this arranged in a way that we want, right? So again, let me make a section. So what we want is on the laptop, it should show probably 3 paragraphs. On the tablet, it should show 2 paragraphs. On the phone, it should show a single paragraph. So we want to attain a responsive structure like that. So I'm putting 3 paragraphs within the section, right? So we have 3 paragraphs like this. This is the standard laptop thing, but we don't want this on the laptop. On the laptop, we want 3 paragraphs next to each other, right? So let me get rid of these colors now. I hope that is clear. So that is how we can set colors on different devices. Now let's focus on the arrangement. So a quick question for you in the chat. How did we put this in a horizontal row? How did we put this in a horizontal row in the previous session? Which property did we use? Perfect. We said display to flex. Exactly. So now we need to do the exact same thing, right? With the only difference being we are going to set different widths on different devices, right? So the section is going to be a flex box irrespective of any of the other devices. So up top, I can say section, display, flex. That will be the same thing as always. Now you can see the difference actually, right? Even on the laptop and even on the phone, it is still occupying still one row. It is still taking up one row, right? But this is not what we want. So what we want is on the laptop, it should take 3 rows. On the tablet, it should take 2 rows. On the phone, it should take a single row. So what can we do for that? Well, if you remember, we changed the width of the content, right? So that is exactly what we can do over here also. How do we do this? Well, on the phones, we can make the paragraph occupy 100% width, right? So we can say 100%. So this way it will take up a single row, right? So for the extra small and small devices both, we can use the same setup at 100%. Now on the tablet, what we can do is we can set this to 50% so that we have 2 paragraphs in a row. And then naturally on the laptops, we can set them to something like 30%. So we have 3 in a row, right? So we can set them to something like 30%. And even on larger screens, we can set them to 30%. Now, if I go ahead and try the same thing out, you will see the difference, right? So let's save this. Let's double check that our styling is all proper. So we have section, which is flex. I think we should also put this everywhere. Otherwise, that could again be a problem. So let's put that in. And then we also have to set the wrapping. So flex wrap to wrap. Otherwise, that will not work, right? So let's add that everywhere. I think adding just one section at the top should also get this done, but still, this is the same thing, right? So let me just put that in. And immediately you will see on the screen that we see a change, right? Now, if I go to the tablet size, you will see we have 2 paragraphs in a row. And when I reach the laptop size, now we have 3 in a row. So again, if you can see on the screen, we have 3 paragraphs in a row for the laptop. If I reduce the size down to a tablet, we are down to 2 paragraphs. And if I reduce it down to the phone size, which is the small devices size, we are down to 1 paragraph, right? So this is how it works, right? This is how responsive design works, and that's everything you need to know about it. So we can just have it once at the top. I don't think we need to repeat the section style everywhere. It can just be there once at the top, and the rest of it will still, be true. So I'm just removing all the duplicate code from here, and you will see it still works fine as expected. So on the bigger screens, it goes to 3, on the tablet to 2, and on the phone down to 1. So this is exactly how we can get responsive design to work, right? Is that clear? Does this make sense? Any questions on this? So yes, now I'm open to questions on both YouTube and Zoom. So wherever you are, if you have a question, please let me know. And then we'll get to the next part in a minute. But yes, so for whoever is wishing me happy birthday, it is not my birthday, just for the record. But anyway, yes, we'll take another example of this. So I have an output that we want to replicate. We'll get to that. But is the concept clear? Are you understanding how we approach this responsive design problem? So again, Ganeshwari, you don't have to, remember these pixels like I did. You can just go to W3 schools and copy them directly from there. There is no need to remember this thing. Nobody is going to ask you the exact pixel count. You just need to know what media queries are. So media queries are basically device breakpoints that we can use to, write responsive code. And that's basically everything you need to know, nothing else. Okay, perfect. So again, there are no specific questions other than repeating this. So I hope I'm assuming that this is clear, right? So again, Rupa, I have given installation instructions. There is an entire document that is on the repository. Please go ahead, read that and install everything that you need for this, right? So again, you have to just install VS Code. The file should be saved as index.html, styles.css. That's it. You don't need anything else for this, right? So if you make an HTML file, you can go to your file explorer. You should be able to see the file. Just double click and it will open in the browser. So again, all the instructions are already available in the repository. You can go, there's a document for installation instructions, read that and you can set the system up. Yes, I'm yet to add session 7 link. It was not available. So I will just add that after the session today. I'll add both 7 and 8 links, don't worry. But until session 6, everything is updated in the repository. Right, perfect. So now let's continue to the next part. So the next question is, or the next task for us is to replicate this section that you see on the screen, right? So I'll do this very slowly, step by step. I want you to pay very close attention and help me out with the tags and styles as and when we go along. Right, so we have two things here. The first thing is this heading, which is our best selling courses. And then we have 4 course banners like this. Naturally, we want this to be responsive, so there should be 4 on the laptop, 2 on the tablet, and 1 on the phone. That's what we want to do, right? So yes, let's go ahead and get this done. So I am going to quickly set up VS Code again. So I'll remove whatever we have just added, except for the media queries, because we will need them. So I'll keep those and I will delete everything else that we have. So again, this output is from my own project, right? It's for the startup where I work. But yes, so let's take a look at this and how can we do this? So I remove this also. Now the first question for you, again, I remove everything. So we are back to a blank page. The first question for you is, This is a heading, right? So which heading should I use to create this our best selling courses? You can just put the tag in the chat and we'll go ahead and set that up. H1, perfect. Why? Because it is the biggest heading on the page. So we can just say H1 and I'll just put our best selling courses and done. So that is our heading. It shows up. We'll style it in just a minute. Then we have a section, right? Within this section, we have 4 courses. So let me set that up. So that will be 4 divs. Again, you can use any tag here. You can use article. You can use any combination of section and articles. But I am going to use the div. So section is my outermost boundary. And then div is my inner course, individual course, right? So since this is going to be an individual thing, only one section for courses is going to be there on the page. What should we use here? Should we use an ID or a class? So again, this is the only section which is going to contain our best-selling courses. So do we use an ID or a class? Perfect. We'll use an ID. Great. So I'll give it an ID and this is going to be ID equal to, let's say, best selling courses. Again, it is recommended that we give it meaningful names and not just say section 1, section 2 like that. Meaningful names work best. So this is a meaningful name. Fair enough. Now for each individual course, we have a div, but the styling, if you notice, is the same, right? So we have to apply the same style to every div. So what should we give there? Should we use an ID or a class? We have 4 courses and we want to apply common styling to all 4 of them. So do we apply an ID or a class? Perfect. We use class over here. Great. So let me quickly set that. So class equal to best, let's just say course. Right? So each individual course is a class course and all of them belong to this section, which is best selling courses. Perfect. This is the outermost layout. Right now, there is no output on the screen because neither the section tag is a content tag nor the div tag a content tag. Both of them are container tags, right? Or wrapper tags. They will only give an output once we add some content inside them, right? So now let's do that. What is our content? Well, we have an image, then we have some heading and then some paragraph. Let's start with the image. Can you type the syntax of the image tag in the chat? Include all the relevant attributes also. So don't just say IMG, also give me all the relevant attributes that we need to add along with the image. So quickly, let's see the image tag in the chat and then we'll add that quickly. So write the exact syntax if possible. Right? Don't just say names of the attributes, the exact syntax if possible, so that you also get a quick revision of how to add an attribute and all that. Perfect. So most of you have written this correctly. Let me add those in. So the tag is IMG. It's a single tag or a self-closing tag. So that looks like this. And then the attribute that we have is source, first of all. So again, for an attribute, we write the name of the attribute equal to its value. Then after source, we have alt, which we should write. And then height and width, we'll set with CSS. But yes, those are 2 other attributes that we can use. So alt, source, height, width. These are the 4 standard attributes for images. Perfect. So this is our setup. Again, there is no output on the screen just yet because again, we haven't added any source for the image. So let's quickly go ahead and get those images. I'll just load up the actual website because I just want to use the same images so that we can match the output exactly. So this is where the images are coming from, right? This is the actual website. But yes, here are the images. So I'll quickly save them. So I will just say save image as, and let's add them. For now, I'll just add them to the download itself. So right click, save image as, and downloads again. So let's call it 2 probably. Then this is, oh, these are not the ones actually. We have another section uh, here. These are the images. So yes, these are the 4 images. Here is the third one. So save image as, download that, and then this one, save image as, download this. So again, if you remember when we were discussing this thing about adding images, I told you that it is better if we actually use local images, right? If we actually use images from our system as opposed to using images directly from the internet. And the reason for that, is because on the internet, things can be lost at any point of time. Let's say tomorrow the website goes down or the company shuts down. That means your entire website is gone, right? So better is you should use local images. So that's what I have done right now. I've just downloaded all the images. Now we can use them. So I'm going to just name them 1, 2, 3, 4, but you should ideally give them better names. So I have 1, 2, I think this is the third one, and that is me. But yes, this is the third image. And then here is the fourth one. So this is our founder, number 4. Done. Now what I want to do is I want to basically put it in a folder called images, and I want to move all of them into that folder. Right? That's it. So there's a good question in the chat. What if we run the code in another system? So when you run the code in another system, please copy the entire folder and then it will be fine. If you just copy the HTML file, then it will not work, right? So obviously, because it will require CSS and images also. So ideally, you should copy the entire folder and you should be good. Again, we will take a look at deployment also later on towards the end of this training. We'll also see how we can get a free link, online link that we can share with people to access our website. So that is also something we'll discuss later on after we have covered all the concepts, right? But yes, this is, we have downloaded all the images now. So now the next question for you is, how do we add that image over here? Can you give me the value that I have to put in the source tag? Remember, we talked about folder path and how we can access images inside folders. That's the question for you. So how can we access those images now? Because if I just write, for example, 1.png, then it will not show up, as you can see, because it doesn't exist in this folder, right? So what we have to do is, yes, we need to, you can either right click and, choose the copy path, copy relative path. So this will give you the path, as you can see, or you can type that in. So that's images slash. So again, you can right click on the image and copy relative path. Don't copy path, always copy relative path. Copy path will give you C drive and then downloads and all that, which we don't want. And we want relative path. So let me just quickly set that. This is image 3 and then this is image 4. Perfect. So we have 4 images now. They are big in size. That's fine. We can always work with that. Now let's quickly move to the next part of the content. So what else do we have? We have another heading. Can you tell me which heading tag should we use for this course title? So under the image now we have the next heading, right? So can you tell me which heading tag should we use over there? Perfect. We should either use H2 or H3, right? The reason is because we already have H1 on the screen. And this is not as important as the original heading, right? So we should ideally use H2 or H3. So this will be the name of the course. Let me quickly type the 4 names, right? So we have creative writing. Then we have poetry. And then we have storytelling. Perfect. Done. So this is our content almost. And now we have one final thing. I think we can just use a dummy paragraph data for this one. So let me just go ahead and add that. So this is P with lorem and done. So now we have all the content, as you can see, right? Everything that we need for the output. Content wise, we have added that on the screen. Now the next question is, how can we arrange this horizontally, right? So that is the question to you. Which element do we style, or which tag do we style to arrange this horizontally? Give me the exact CSS code. Don't just say display flex. Give me the selector, give me the property and the value, everything that we need to get this horizontal display. You can take a minute. You can take a minute. But yes, I want the horizontal display code. Okay, so a lot of you, I think, seem to be confused between this part. So let me quickly repeat. When it comes to a flex box, what we have, right, is basically the outer container should be the flex box. So over here, if you see, the section is our outermost container. And then within this section, we have 4 divs, right? So if we want these four divs to arrange horizontally next to each other, that means the outer container should be the flex box. So this section should become the flex box. First thing. The second thing is, since we have an ID assigned to it, we should never use the element selector, because what is the point of the ID then, right? So what we can do is we can directly use the ID itself. So hash ID, and this we can set display to flex. It will not make much difference. You can see everything is now horizontal. The sizes are still a problem. But if I just increase this to full screen, you will see this is how it is showing up now. Things are in one row. That is great. Things are in one row. That is great. But again, we have a lot of work to do until we reach that output that we are looking at. But yes, let me actually go back to a smaller screen size and let's work on this. Now, the next question is, how do we attain that responsive behavior, right? So that's the question. Let me quickly tell you how. The first thing is we did the same setup, a few minutes ago. So we have to set the flex wrap to wrap. This will again make everything horizontal, as you can see. But now we have to assign widths, right? So on the phone, let us say that this takes up about 80% of the screen. So let me set that to 80%. I'll do the same thing for this one as well, right? Again, there is no difference right now. And again, we are assigning it to the wrong element. We have to assign it to the course, because we want each individual course to take up 80% of the screen. Now you will see there's a subtle difference, but not much, right? On the small screen, we want it to take about 80% of the width. Then on the laptop or on the tablet screen, we want it to take about, let's say, 40% of the width. Why 40%? Because we want that empty space, to add that justify content and all the other properties. So we will try to keep it, we'll try to keep some space for our styling. So let's set this to about 30% on the laptop. And I think the same for the bigger screen size also. Let's double check. So we have class course. We have given this. Now let's check the output out. So I will just make this full screen again so that we can just see what is going on. So you can see this looks like everything is showing up three in a row, but the entire problem is because of the image itself. So now what we can do is we can set the image, right? So that is dot course, and inside that image. So this is how we can access multiple elements, right? If we have a container called course and then you want to access image inside it, we just say dot course space image. This gives us access to the image inside the course container, right? So we can set this width to, let's say, 50%. Now you will see this starts to work. We can also set it to 100%. So this will also work fine. And you will see this is now taking about 80% of the width. Finally, we can set justify content to, let's say, space evenly. This is the property I like the most. And now you can see we get our desired output in terms of just the responsive part. So if you can see on the tablet, we now have two rows that show up. On the phone, it's a single row, exactly what we want. And on the bigger screen, we have three in a row, right? You can see this is what responsive website looks like. So again, it's very simple to make. I hope you can make this now. Right? I've shown you two examples. This is how we can make it. And then we can add the final bit of styling to make it, look like this. Very simple is just we have rounded borders, and then the font is different, and that's practically it. Right? So I'm sure you can do that on your own. But let me quickly show you. So if you want to access all the H2s inside the course, we can set text align to center. So that brings them to the center. We can change the font family. Let's change it to Verdana. Again, you can use fonts from Google Fonts. You know how to do that now, right? And we can probably set the font size to 26 pixels. Okay, this is bigger, 20 pixels. Better, looks good to me. Then for the course itself, we can give a background color. If you see, no, there's no background color. There's box shadow on the four sides. And then we have the rounded borders. So we can say border radius 20 pixels, right? So that should round it up for us. And we should also make a very tiny border so that we can actually see what is going on. So 1 pixel solid gray, and then a little bit of padding like this. You can see now the course card is visible, and we only want the padding to the inner part because the image should not get that padding, right? So what we can do is we can wrap that up into another div because we want the image to not get the padding. So we can either make a span or a div. Doesn't really matter. So we can just do this, and this way we can now give it the corresponding padding. Let me add it everywhere. So again, you have to understand this also, that we might have to create multiple divs or multiple containers depending on how we want to style it, because again, styling needs to be done on a container basis. We can't give individual padding to headings and paragraphs. That will look very different on different devices. So we should always work with container levels like this. Done. Now I'm going to work with that. So that will be dot course div, and then padding again, let's set it to 20 pixels. Perfect. Now you can see it looks much better, much better. And for the image now, we can also set the border top left to 20 pixels and then the border top right to 20, because again, if you notice the output very carefully, only the top of the image is curved, right? You can see here, the top is curved, the bottom is a straight line, right? So that is exactly what we have set up over here, right? Perfect. So this is our entire setup. And now we can also add a margin if you want. But again, make sure that your margin does not exceed the limit, right? So we just need margin bottom. Let's add something like that. And that should be it. So including the margin, if you're adding margin to the left and the right, that should not exceed 100, right? So that is something that you should consider as well. And then for the paragraph, we can again say text align center. And also for the H1, we want text align center. So text align center. Done. Right. So this is it on the phone. Looks good. Now let's take the tablet version out. So this is it on the tablet. Again, looks good. Now let's take the laptop version out. This is how it looks on the laptop. Again, pretty happy with it. If you check the actual output, four of them are in a row. So we just need to work with the width a little bit if we want that, right? So we can just change the laptop width to some 20% or 25, 23, 24%, and that should bring it to four in a row. Make sure it exceeds 100, right? Only then it will push it to the next row. So you can see that. And if you use 25, then there will be no space between them. So that's why I used 23, so that we have 2% space in between everything. If you use 20, then it will fit five, and that is not ideal. So yes, this is the 20 part. And again, it looks more or less the same, except for the font and the border, the box shadow. Let me quickly add that also. So let us say that I have no idea how box shadow works, right? I have no idea how it works. I have no idea how to write it. So I don't know the syntax or anything like that. So for this, what I can do is I can go to W3 schools, right? And I can set that up. So let me just reduce the size of this. So yes, let's go for W3 schools and look for box shadow. So again, when you join a company, when you start working in the industry, nobody is going to sit and tell you everything, like the way I am doing right now. Nobody is going to give you examples for these things. So you should know the resources, you should know where to go and check. Right? So that is exactly what I am trying to do. So we go here, we find out that there is something called box shadow, and there are so many different things that we can give to it. So I will just copy one of these, and that should basically, um, work for us. Let's check an example probably to understand this better. So you can just click on try it yourself, and you can see there are so many options that this shows. So let me just copy one of them. This looks very complicated. Let's copy this one probably, and we can set it up. So we need this for each course. That's here. Okay, perfect. Let's see. So we have this three color thing. We don't want three colors. We just want gray shade. So now we are down to one color. We have gray, and we can also set another value here, which is the spread, right? So you can see now it starts to blur out a little bit. You can increase this a little more, I think. You can see the blur, right? So this is what we want, and we want it much closer than 5 pixels. So yes, this looks good to me, right? So yes, as you can see, this is how we can set the box shadow as well. If it's too much spread, you can reduce it, reduce the spread like that. And again, you can also reduce the color to a lighter shade. I think that will be more appropriate. We just want a very tiny little highlight to that, right? And the same thing over here also, we can just keep it, really same, like the same color itself, so that it will be an exact thing. So we have 171 and then 169 and then 169. So let's set that up and done. So now you see this looks exactly like the output that we set out to create, except for the font. Everything else is exactly the same. And of course, the spacing a little bit because the content is different. But this looks like a proper real world project output. So yes, this is how we can work with responsive design, right, when it comes to CSS. So again, if you have created this HTML page on your system, you can just go to your file explorer, just go to wherever the page is. So in my case, let me quickly open up. So it is over here. You'll have Windows Explorer or whatever, you can go there. My code is here. Then just double click on this. It will open up in the browser. So this is how you can open the code up from your system. In VS Code, if you want to do that, then so that is what I am using. So if you go to extensions, we have something called live server. Looks like this, right? So this is the extension that we need to install. And as soon as we install this, then you can right click on the HTML file and run with live server, open with server. So this will again open this directly in the browser. I'm just trying to give you examples from real world projects so that you understand how to put things together. Once you get the assignment from the team, you will be able to practice also. I actually already shared it a long time ago, but I'm just waiting for it to be reflected on the LMS. So that way you also get 5, 6 outputs to practice, because again, that is how you will learn better. So yes, once that is up, I will let you know, right? Perfect. That brings us back to the next part, right? Which is Bootstrap. So I just want to give you a quick walkthrough of this. I will not spend time writing the code in the session. All I will just do is just walk you through what it is. But yes, have you ever tried? Yes, so there's a good question in the chat. Live server is giving an error, right? If the live server is giving an error, make sure you open folder in VS Code, right? Don't open the file directly. So in VS Code, we have two options. You can open file, open. This will open the file only. And if I open the file, it looks like this. And okay, let me close the folder. Okay, now if I try to open file directly, so let me just open file. So let me quickly navigate to that folder again. This is a very important question, so I will just take 1 minute to answer it. Where is that folder? Here. Then open section 8. And if I just open this one file, okay, then live server will not work. So if you right click and try to open with live server, it will give you an error. It will say open folder or workspace, as you can see. So what you need to do is don't open the file. Go to file, go to open folder, and then open the entire folder where you are writing the code. You can create a new folder and open that. Then if you run live server, then it will work fine. As you can see, this time we don't get any error, right? So this is how you can work in this case with a live server. So don't open the file directly. Please open the folder and then you will be able to run it, right? Perfect. Yes, that brings us to the next part. Like I was saying, I just want to quickly introduce Bootstrap to you. I don't want to spend time on it, right? So the topic as such is not in the curriculum. It is not in the curriculum I shared originally with the team, but I just want to quickly introduce this to you. So Bootstrap is a very important library that is available for us. And library basically is, in general technical terms, a library is a place where we get a lot of ready-made code, right? So we get a bunch of ready-made code and we can use it for free. So there are no copyright issues. There is nothing like that, right? That is exactly what Bootstrap is. I'm not sure if you have heard of this before. If you have, let me know in the chat. If you have used it before, also let me know in the chat. But basically what Bootstrap does is, as you can see on the screen also, it gives us a lot of templates, or it gives us a lot of elements that we can put to use in whichever fashion that we want. So we get the entire HTML code and we get one big CSS file which contains a lot of pre-written styles. Let me show you how to work with this really quickly. Again, I am not going to make any output from it. There's a challenge if you want to try out. So I've added this in the slide. This is a challenge for you to create using Bootstrap. I'm not going to create this for you, but I will show you how Bootstrap works, right? So let us head to the Bootstrap website. The website is getbootstrap.com. Again, the website link will be in the slides as well. So the website is getbootstrap.com. You can just search for Bootstrap on Google and it will be the first thing that shows up, right? So again, I am adding the link also in the chat. So we have getbootstrap.com, right? Let me make it full screen so it's better. Yes. So as you can see, it says build fast responsive sites with Bootstrap. Effectively, what Bootstrap is a bunch of code, and this is how we connect to it. Very simple. We have a link tag and a script tag. That's it. So we have a link tag and a script tag. All we have to do is just copy the link. So let me open up a new HTML file. Let's call it bootstrap. Uh, strap.html. Let me paste that in. So this is a link just like we have our own CSS link. It's the exact same thing, right? So view word wrap. And again, we can remove this or keep those tags, doesn't really matter. The browser takes it by default anyway. But this is the tag that is used for responsiveness. So try to keep it in the code, right? Don't remove it. I just remove it because we haven't discussed it yet. But still, you can just keep the default template. So I've added the link to Bootstrap like so. And you can, if you just go to this link, you will see it is nothing but a lot of CSS, right? This is literal CSS code that is written. How do you check? You can also check this and you will see a lot of things. If you just search for color, you will see, right, there are color tags that are specified. See color hash 000. If you look for flex, you will see flex being used. You can see display flex. So again, flex wrap, margin. We have worked with these properties, right? So all we have to do is just link to this CSS file, which is what we have already done. And then we also want to copy the script. We'll talk about scripting when we go to JavaScript. We don't really need to write any script for Bootstrap, but we just have to include it for the default functionality, right? Finally, we can then go to the elements. So in the top left, you will see docs. Click on that. This opens up an entire view. And in the left menu, you have all the elements. You can see in the components, everything that you want. For example, if you want a nav bar, you can click on that. And you will see they have a lot of examples of nav bar, which is fully ready to go, right? And you get the entire HTML code, as you can see, right? You get the entire HTML code as you can see over here. So all we have to do is we just have to copy whatever we want. There are so many options and variations as you can see. This is the one which has everything. Just copy this, right? Paste it in your HTML code and we are good to go. That's it. So now let me open this up with live server. And you can see now we have a fully working navbar on our page. Very simple, right? Even if you switch to your mobile view, right? So let's just switch to our mobile view probably. Let me just see if I can. Let me first open this in Chrome. I don't like Safari for this. So Chrome is better for development. And yes, if I just go back to the inspect, you can see the navbar is properly working, right? For a mobile phone, it automatically goes down to this, um, three dots and all of that. So it's a fully fledged responsive navbar that we get. Again, what we have to do is just go to getbootstrap.com. You reach this page, scroll down. You have to include via CDN. So just copy the script, copy the link, add it to your head, then copy the script, add it to the body code, right? That's it. That is how you link to Bootstrap. As soon as you add that, so my link is here in the head, my script is in my body tag, right? Then you have to go to the components. So go to docs. In the left menu, you will see a section called components. Over here, you will have everything. As you can see, there are also forms and everything. So if you see forms, right, you will get different versions of forms also. So if you just go to input groups or layout, you will see there are so many things here. Let me just switch to the light mode. Yes, so this should be better now. But as you can see, there are so many things over here. If I just switch to validation, you'll see there's a fully fledged form. And once you submit, you get all of these beautiful error messages and everything that you can customize. So again, Bootstrap just gives us a bunch of ready-made code that we can use, right? Let me add one more thing called a carousel. It's a very, very common thing that you see on all websites. This banner that we see on the top of the page, this is a carousel. Again, there are different variations of this. As you can see, this one has bottom controls, right? Then this one has text on the bottom controls. There are so many options. Let me copy this one. It's so copied, and all we have to do is just go back to the page and paste it. Simple as that. And obviously, since we have all the HTML code, we can customize it. So for example, over here, you will notice that the image will be missing. So if you see the image tag, the source is missing, right? So we can add our own images. We can say 1.png. Let's add 2 and 3 and see if we get the carousel or not. Right? So images 3, done. Let's check our output, go back, and you will see we have a fully working slider on the page now, right? So this is how simple and easy it is to work with Bootstrap, right? So hopefully it makes sense. As you can see, it is very convenient. And again, you can, if I just close this inspector, then we will have access to everything, right? So if I just close this inspector, hold on, let me just find. Right, there we go. If I just close this, then this becomes a full screen slider, as you can see. And then since we know CSS, we can just go ahead and style it and we can change the width. So it is carousel item and the images inside that. So if I just go to my CSS, I add a style to this and I just set the width to, not width, let's reduce the height probably to, let's say, 100 pixels. Right? If I just do that, then we also have to link to our CSS. So we forgot to link, right? So link to styles.css, and immediately you will notice it becomes tinier. Naturally, the image will be distorted, but I'm just telling you that we have custom control to everything, right? So just because we are copying something doesn't really mean we have to use it exactly that way. We have custom control to everything because we get HTML and CSS code, right? So we can override that code in whichever way we want. So this is how we can work with Bootstrap. Again, over here, you will find everything that you need. You have a section called containers where you will find everything that you need to horizontally arrange things. There is a grid section where you find everything for the grid. So basically, Flexbox is your container and grid is grid, right? So this is how that works. Again, you have alert boxes, like you can see, you have buttons here, like you can see, right? So there is everything that you will ever need for a proper website. You also have this pop-up thing. So this pop-ups, right, that we see, again, if I just show you an example, you can see this pop-up. Again, it's all built in, it's all ready-made. All we have to do is just copy this and customize it, right? So again, if I just paste this pop-up code in my file here, and then I can just, there's a button called launch model that should show up. If I click on it, you will see the pop-up is working as expected. So that is how easy it is, right? We can basically do everything or anything that we want with this. So we can change the color, we can change the styles, we can change the position. We know how to work with all those things, right? So this is what Bootstrap is, and this is how we can use it to put everything together. Now, like I was telling you, right, there is a quick challenge that I have for you. So let me just show that to you as well. Let me just start the presentation. 1 second. Okay, there we go. And yes, so like I was saying, I have one output that you should try out to create with Bootstrap. So this is that output. Again, I will upload the PPT in the repository. You can get it from there, right? But that's the entire idea, right? So again, we get access to a lot of pre-written code in Bootstrap, and we can use that and perform pretty much anything or add pretty much anything that we need. So this is something that you can try out on your own. This is not an assignment. This will not be graded. This is just for practice. Since a lot of you have been mentioning in the chat that you need more practice, this is my attempt to give you something to code. So you can try to code this using normal HTML, CSS also, and then using Bootstrap also. It's not very difficult. I think If you look at it, and spend 2 minutes looking at it, you will be able to identify everything that you need. We can immediately see that in this one, there is a background image, right? Then in this one, it's a flex setup where we have text on the left hand side and image on the right hand side. So it's not very difficult to implement. You can definitely go ahead and try this out. So this is a challenge that I will leave in the slides for you, right? Perfect. Now, the next thing that I have again are a couple of questions as always. So let's take those one by one. So again, for people on YouTube and for people on Zoom, please please put whatever you think is the correct answer in the chat itself. So here is the first question. Again, I'll give you a minute, read the question carefully, put it in the chat, and then we'll discuss the correct answer. Okay, so the correct answer for this one is option three, like most of you guessed. So padding is the correct answer. Here's the second question. So again, this is sort of an advanced question for you. We haven't discussed these yet, but still, if you know about them, you can quickly answer. And then we have one more question after this one. Perfect. So the correct answer here is option two. Actually, I think this is incorrect in the PPT. Option two is the correct answer. What most of you have mentioned, right? Option two, this is the correct answer. We used one instance of this today also when we were targeting all headings and paragraphs within the course. So I'll change this in the PPT, but yes, option two is the correct answer. Right, perfect. Now let's move to the third question quickly. So here is the third one, right? So again, give it a thought and you can then share what you think is the correct answer in the chat. Okay, so the correct answer to this one is also option two. So no wrap, that's the default value. And again, we can change it to wrap if you wanted to reduce the width so that multiple items fit in the second row onwards. So we can set that to wrap. So yes, option two here is the correct option. And perfect. That is pretty much it that I had for the session today. So in terms of the topics, before I quickly wrap up, we have covered HTML, CSS completely now. So everything that we need to know about HTML, more or less 90%, 95%, we have discussed. The same setup with CSS also, we have discussed most of it. From the next week onwards, from the next session, that is, we will jump onto JavaScript, right? So from session 9 onwards, we are going to discuss JavaScript. And again, in JavaScript, we are going to have 3 to 4 sessions before we move to React, right? So we'll see how much time it takes, but we'll cover the concepts in a very, simple way because React will be more JavaScript. And then we'll cover most of the difficult logic, in React itself. So yes, that's what's coming up in the next couple of sessions. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat now. Let me just pick a few questions if there are any, and we'll then wrap up. Can you cover wrap? Yes. So flex wrap is a property that helps us decide whether the items in the flex, right, should basically be in one row or they can take up multiple rows. So wrap would mean move to the next line. So for example, let us say there are 4 paragraphs and each paragraph is occupying 40% of width. So the total is 160%. But of course, there's 100% space available. So if we set it to no wrap, then it will stick to that line and it will fit everything over there itself. But if you set it to flex wrap, then it will allow the additional 2 paragraphs to go to the next line. So until 100%, it will use the first row and then move it to the next row. So in a lot of websites, you will see, right, that there is this horizontal scroll, like swipe to see the additional content. That's no wrap. It will never go to the next row. You can just swipe to see everything. On the other hand, in the case of some other websites, you don't have a scroll, like horizontal scroll, you have a vertical scroll. So that is where wrap is being set. So that's how that works. Yes. So again, Jai Krishna has a good question. We have Bootstrap. So why do we need to code? Because we have to modify the code that is written in Bootstrap. And for that, we need to understand HTML and CSS, right? So unless or until we know what tag is, we know what this style will do, we know what this is, we can't really work with Bootstrap. So before you learn Bootstrap, you need to know HTML and CSS so that you can understand the code that you are copying, right? So that is why knowing Bootstrap is essential, right? Yes. So again, I will quickly repeat this once again for people who have joined late, right? The assignment is still being uploaded. So the current assignment, which is on the LMS, is not the HTML assignment that contains everything, right? So what we are working on is we are updating that assignment to add only HTML questions. So please give me until Monday mostly, and by then the HTML assignment will be uploaded. If it is not on the LMS, I will share it in the session itself, so you can try that out, right? I know that you need to practice more, so I have already created the assignment, but it is still being uploaded to the LMS. So as soon as that is done, I'll let you know. So as of now, you don't have to solve any question on the LMS. As of now, you don't have to complete any assignment on the LMS. When it is required, I will tell you. Okay, so don't worry about the assignment just yet. Just make sure that you finish off that APSCHE test which was shown earlier today, right? So just make sure that you have that test done and you have your resume done. Focus on those two things for the weekend. When we meet again on Monday, I will give you an update on the assignment. So I hope that works. And there was one more question. Hold on. Any task? Yes. So again, this is Hema Naga. I've given you a question today, right? This is the question for you. This is in the slides after the bootstrap slide. So what I want you to do is I want you to try and create this first using normal HTML, CSS, and then try to create the same thing using bootstrap so that you will understand the difference, how much code it takes and how much simpler it is to do with bootstrap. So if you're looking for something to practice, this is a sample output which you can work with. So again, first I do create this with normal HTML, CSS, then I do create it with Bootstrap. Yes, so coming to the projects part again, by Monday, you will have the abstracts that the team will share with you. It's already shared with them. So yes, hopefully you will be able to submit those to the college as well very soon, right? So that's the update on the abstracts as well. And yes, I don't see any other questions in the chat for now. Please make sure you fill the feedback form. It has already been circulated in the chat a few times, both on YouTube's chat as well as on the Zoom chat. So please make sure you submit the feedback form. And yeah, that's basically it for this one. Thank you so much for attending. I hope you are now a little more confident on HTML and CSS. From the next session onwards, like I said, we will jump to JavaScript and explore that. So yes, that is what we'll cover in the next one. Until then, have a great weekend. See you guys on Monday, again, 6 p.m. sharp, Monday evening. So yes, see you then. Bye-bye.